far as the Massachusetts taxation is the primary thing I've done all my life. So I go back a ways at it, and I pretty well have a good handle on it all. So I think I'm the guy to help you if you need help. There's a number of things to talk about today. I am going to start, and we're going to start in the area of law changes first, and then we'll go into other things that are going on and work our way through the whole as far as we get through mass taxation. It's really meant to be. It's not in itself an income tax program. It is it's mass tax and review. So I've got it set up to talk about just virtually all the taxes at some point. Well, I'm going to start with some of the law changes. So there's a number of big changes here. I'm going to start with the millionaire's tax, all right, because I think that's something that's a little more contained and I can dispose of it. For those of you that know me, I'm sure you know I'm very, 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 very unhappy about the millionaire's tax. I really feel that the people against it didn't do a good enough job explaining it. I think they felt too much about the sympathy, that nobody has sympathy for millionaires, but that isn't the main issue in my mind. I mean, first of all, they have amended Article 44. That law, that's not a law, that's an amendment to the Constitution. So the Mass Constitution, which goes back to the Adamses, it goes back forever, has now been amended by a 52% vote. It's too much for me. So that alone was one of the reasons I'm tremendously against it. Once you amend Article 44, those of you that remember my programs remember that Article 44 says the same class of income must be taxed at the same rate. And it's the reason why you do not have a graduated rate in Massachusetts, because of Article 44. It's the reason why everybody pays 5%. Well, while that has not changed, it's still a requirement that the same class of income must be taxed at the same rate. What this does is not change that part per se, but adds an exception to say that, where there's over $1 million in income, you can tax this added 4%. Okay. Now, my attitude about it is that once you change Article 44, you've changed everything. I mean, there's no reason they can't change it again and make a graduated rate. The graduated rate has been attempted dozens of times over the years and has always been turned down by the mass population. And I think if people understood that this was Article 44 and the risk in amending it, they might have felt otherwise. The other thing I have against it, I'm going to tell you what I have against it anyways. What I have against it is that what are they doing? Somebody should have said, Massachusetts doesn't need this. They don't need this money. They just gave back $3 billion to people. So how do they need this extra money? Okay. And the final part of it is, I remind you, I have no sympathy per se for millionaires' taxes. I'm unfortunately not one of that group. I'd like to be. It could happen, but it's not going to. But so I don't have any sympathy per se for that area. But just the idea of unnecessary taxation. If they had done something else, where they had said, "Look, we're going to charge us 4% tax, but we're going to reduce the sales tax as part of that," then you would have felt it was pro-business. It was at least somewhat pro-business. They were reducing the sales tax. So they didn't do any of that. They didn't do any of that. And then the final piece that upsets me the most, I have to say, is that the gambit of saying this goes to education and roads, right, doesn't really mean that much because, first of all, the idea of education, you can lump a lot of stuff in there, okay, that who knows what that means you're going to do with it. And roads, the same thing. Plus, the fact that they're putting that money into roads and education has to have you question how much of the regular budget will they still put in education or roads. So there's their regular spending, which they may eliminate because now they get this money to spend on it. So it really was deceptive. I think the whole thing, had people been explaining this properly, I think they would have voted against it. But I thought the people did a lousy job. And then again, you got the idea that people who were for it were absolutely lying. And I mean, it's true. I don't, I mean, they were putting out ads that says that elderly people's homes won't be affected by this. Well, most elderly people's home won't be affected by this, but anybody who sells a home and gets over $1 million in gain is going to be affected by this. Absolutely. I mean, the homes aren't exempt from this, the sale of homes. Now, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this $1 million tax, is it just the excess over $1 million that gets the 4% extra tax?
Exactly. Whatever, anything over $1 million gets another 4%.
So anything below
that is the regular 5%.
I see. So like if you have 1.4 million, only 400,000 of that would get taxed at the 9%. Okay.
Right.